Coming up on episode 128 of the Behind the Back podcast, it's an action-packed show, guys. We got to talk about the Kings failing in the draft lottery. What does falling to 7 mean for us in the moment? And who do we think is going to fall in that spot? We talk about a few draft prospects today that we were really excited about that we're going to break down for you. And then we got to talk about the NFL schedule release. It is today. We break it down for the Eagles and the Niners, talk about the schedules, what we noticed, and how confident we are in our teams going into the season. So with that being said, y'all, let's get it. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. We are your hosts. I am Marcos Conan Negron, and beside me here, as always, is Ben, the Jet Retz. Ben, how are you, my brother? If you guys haven't noticed already, we kind of have a new setup. But hopefully you guys enjoy the show. We hope you enjoy the changes. Ben, what do you think of our studio that we got going on here now?
I mean, the studio is fantastic. I love it. I love the setup. Yeah. Shout out to my pops who was out here in California visiting from Tennessee. It was a rough week and a half for him and for my mom, but he did pull through. He came over here. He got us all set up. So now our audio seems to be checked. And now it's just figuring out this video thing. Hopefully we can lock that in.
Yes. Shout out, Matt. Thank you again for all your help. We appreciate it. But yes, we're hoping to provide you guys with a great show as we continue to grow and continue to build in this podcast journey of ours. Because we're getting into what, year 4 or 3?
3.
3 of 3. Okay. Yeah. So, we got to improve each and every year. So we got to come at you guys with new stuff. So as you guys heard in the intro, this is going to be a big one because we didn't talk last week. Again, as we were figuring out a few things and Ben had his family over. So we had, took some time, and I'm going to be busy here coming up very shortly as my time has now come to be a dad here very shortly. So any day now. So we'll keep you guys posted when that happens. But
how you feeling, by the way?
Feeling good. Yeah. Wifey and I are ready to go. Like,
good.
It's been a great, she's been a trooper, and I think it's been the perfect mix of, the family being able to come down and, do the baby shower with us. That was a lot of fun. And she was managing the first 2 trimesters. This one's kind of, giving her a bit of a challenge, but she's powering through. We're almost there, guys. So it's been a good time, and we're really excited. Like, we're ready. We kind of just want her to be here already, but at the same time, it's like, we know this is like the last week or 2 that we have left. So it's starting to feel real now because like everything's just built up to this point. It still feels like yesterday was October and we were telling my family like, oh, like, hey, so yeah, we're excited, dude. We're excited for you to meet her too.
Heck yeah.
So guys, that was a positive note. But when we start this conversation with the Sacramento Kings, and for us Kings fans, this past weekend, Mother's Day was not so positive, I would say. Let's set the stage. It's NBA draft lottery. We're excited. We have the 5th best odds in this thing, right? And we're watching it go down. At least so I'm at my in-laws' house. We're making some food, we're chilling out, so I have time to watch this real quick. Everything's happening as it should in this draft lottery. All the teams, that had they're in the same spots. No one's really moving. We're chilling. Did Memphis move up before it got to us? Or did that
Chicago, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Chicago moved up into the top 4.
4.
But even then, I was like, it shouldn't matter. Like, we'll be fine.
Yep.
When it got to 7th, I didn't think it was going to be us. I was like,
oh, I did.
But part of me was like, please don't be us. Yeah. But at the same time, I was like, no, I feel pretty good about it. And then the Sacramento Kings are now picking 7th. So I want to get your take on, obviously this is disappointing because we talked the amount of sims we did. We did quite a few during the time leading up to this. We really did think, it was a mix. We only won once, right? And yeah, a lot of the times we fell back, and that's what happened. So what was your initial reaction? And do you have any like big picture takes on it that isn't just like, oh, we fell to 7th?
So, I mean, initial reaction was I totally expected the Kings to be picking at 7 when it came up to 7. Like, I don't know what it was. I watched, 10, I watched 9, watched 8, and I was like, yeah, it's not going to be the Kings.
Right.
And then 7 came up, and I don't know why, but I was like, it's going to be the Kings. And then it was the Kings. I texted you and I was not happy. To say, let's just leave it at that.
That was so funny.
It's pretty crappy, and I instantly thought about, like, 2 months ago when we were sitting here and we were talking about how this team was lining themselves up for like a number one pick. It was looking good in that sense, but the season was horrible. And I was thinking back to the All-Star break, and I'm like, I just want to see the young guys run, because I feel like that would be a lot more fun. And then as the rest of the season went on, like, we started stacking some dubs, and I was like, you know what? I even went on this pod. Like, I take full responsibility, because I went on this pod and I was like, yo, like, who cares that we're stacking a few more wins?
Same. I was the same way.
Like, let's do this. Let's try and build some culture, because winning builds culture. That's the biggest thing that they're gunning for here in Sacramento, is building a culture. And I think that's a good way of doing it. So I instantly thought about all those games. And then I started thinking about, like, the DeMar DeRozan game when he was, returning to Toronto, and how he dropped a 40 bomb on him, right? And got the win. I thought about the Dylan Cardwell block on Zion, to win the game. Like, I thought about all these different moments throughout the season where it was just one more win, where it could have been a loss. And I hate that, because I didn't want to look back at those awesome, fun wins and be disappointed. But here we are. So we're in 7th. The big picture for me, the biggest takeaway, like, initially I was pissed off about it because I wanted AJ. I think it was pretty much a consensus amongst the fan base that we all wanted AJ. Not going to happen. So now when reality sets in and you kind of evaluate this thing, you're getting a guard.
Yeah.
You're getting the guard that you need to move forward. And what it has to be, it's not a hopefully, what it has to be is a hit. It has to be the guy that Sacramento leans on as a pillar, as a foundational pillar moving forward to this rebuild. So that was just kind of my initial takeaway from it. I mean,
yeah, I think that what was, like, some of the discourse around it was interesting to me, because again, you and I, like you just said, like, we went on the same page of, like, enjoying the wins and enjoying the growth. I see people getting upset about it, and I understand why people are pissed. Like, we got screwed. It sucks. Like, we were the only team that decided to ethically tank. Like, and same with, it was like us and even Brooklyn for a little bit there too. They were looking fine, and we kind of we were the two that fell back the most. And I think it was
Adam Silver does not look good for that, by the way.
It would have been bad if, like, OKC got in the top 4.
Yeah,
so
true.
It's like we avoided that catastrophe, and Utah didn't get the number 1 pick. So I think, like, that was funny. I was listening to Bill Simmons after his podcast after, but he had mentioned, he's like, you could just see in AJ's eyes when Utah was in the top 2 that he was like it almost looked like Adam Silver was cooking something up for him specifically, and then when it landed in Washington, it just went away, right? So you could, like, that didn't happen either. Now they're, it's 1 and 2, so Utah, they could still get their guy if they really, really wanted to make this work.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially. Well, Washington does hold all the cards now, and it'd be interesting to see what they do. And that's why this draft is really intriguing, right? But for the Kings side of it, for those fans, I heard people who were like, if we lost that game against Utah when they were trying to tank, if we didn't win those games with the DeMar game or the Devin game, things like that, or if we had won the coin flip, that all of a sudden we'd be in Utah's spot.
Yes.
And I'm just like, that's not how it works. Like, I understand that take, and that there is a possibility that would have happened, but there's the same amount of possibility that we could have just been either in the same spot or got screwed. So I think that I found that to be a little silly, because they're like, oh, then what's the point of watching this team? I'm like, you guys are really over. I think it's shifted way more on the other side of, like, people are trying to get too analytical with it, when people there's plenty of fans who just want to see their team win, even if they're bad. It's not like the NFL. Like, if it was the NFL, I understand if you're 1 win away from, or 1 loss away from being the number 1 pick, there's no lottery for the NFL.
Right.
So it's like, if you're last, you're last. So it's like, in the NBA, you want to increase your odds, but I get that. So, like, but I just think it's a little bit, everyone kind of overreacted way too much to that, in my opinion. I don't know what you thought about that.
Well, I mean, I kind of understand the overreactions in a lot of ways, because you knew you were going to be rebuilding, right? Like you knew that this team essentially, you could argue, hasn't even started the rebuild.
Right.
Because you still haven't offloaded any of these veterans. You're still ramming veteran minutes down Sacramento throats, right? So, like, there's that aspect to it where it's like you can totally argue that rebuild hasn't even started. You need to kickstart somehow, some way. Best way to do that is by landing a top 3-4 pick in a extremely talented top 5, lottery.
Yeah.
And obviously it goes deeper than that. But like the part that frustrated me is just that I don't ever want to look at it in the sense of like I don't want unethical tanking. Like that's my thing. Like I don't want to see teams intentionally tank. Like I love that the Pacers lost their pick.
Right. Oh
really
yeah,
do.
they didn't deserve that either.
No, like I recall a game, I can't remember who they were playing. I think it was the Clippers, where at the very end of the game, someone on the Pacers gets fouled. He goes to the free throw line. There's like 0.3 seconds left. He needs to hit 1 to send it overtime, 2 to win the game. He misses both free throws.
Yeah.
And they were terrible. So it's like there was so many times where I saw the Pacers do it, Washington do it, Utah doing it. And like my side of it was like, if we just avoid intentionally tanking, like I had this take that I wanted to bring on the pod all season long, but I didn't do it for whatever reason, that like the Kings are ethically losing games right now. And because of that, Adam Silver is going to reward them with the number 1 pick. If this is really rigged, obviously it didn't go that way. It's just, it's tough for me because like I was so excited. I felt so good about getting into the top 4. And I didn't want to land in a scenario like this where I regret a lot of these losses. But I totally understand why people are like, we should have tanked. We should have just intentionally lost games.
Well, I think, okay, so then the question
because clearly they got rewarded for it.
What if they were top? So then would we even be having this discussion if they were top 4? Do you think that would have, knowing that we would have gotten at least one of the top 4 guys?
No, but the point is that we didn't get the top 4.
Exactly.
And that's why we're having the conversation.
Right.
Like if we land in top 4, no, we're not having this conversation. The conversation is a lot different. And it's that, the Kings actually handled the season pretty well, all things considered. They lost enough games that it landed them, and netted them a top 4 pick. Yeah. But the shitty part is it didn't work out like that. Like we didn't get a top 4. We got the 7th pick in a traditional spot where you move up, not down in the lottery. And we ended up moving down. So
kind of no man's land. That's what again, we did our lottery sims and we kind of talked about it. Like that's, if we end up here, it's like, we know what we're getting. And I think that's kind of disappointing, but like at the same time, so I guess so now we can pivot to like the draft discussion. Cause what we wanted to bring to the table was we have the 4 draft prospects that we're talking about today who have been, coming out of the combine that's just happening. It's happened this week. We're recording on Thursday, the day of the NFL schedule release as well. So it's all happening. We've gotten a lot of information. Guys have been playing games and scrimmages and stuff. NBA teams are talking to players now. So this process is going. It's draft season in the NBA. And 4 guards in particular have been mocked to the Sacramento Kings. They could fall in this range. The 5 to 8 range is going to be where these guys will most likely fall. Although there's a wrinkle here with the Clippers that the Clippers are the 5 spot because they kept their pick. There's talk of us trading up to get that 5th overall pick to get one of these guys that we're about to talk about too, because the Clippers. I've heard rumors that they're falling in love with Ade Mara, the center from UCLA, the big guy who shows a little bit of everything. They traded Zubac, right? So they kind of naturally want like a replacement for him, I think. And they have Darius Garland. And so do they really need one of these guards, right? That all these other teams are trying to get at this stage because when we do the tiers of the players, we can kind of both agree that there's the big 4, right? Like AJ, Darren, Caleb, Cam. Those are the top 4. And had we fallen into the top 4, even if it was Cam, we probably would have taken Cam. But now we talk about the second tier of guys. And it's basically just point guards. So does that bum you out specifically, before we talk about these guys, that it's going to be a point guard? Or would you have preferred one of these forwards? Obviously not, I know, because they're like top 4 guys, but I don't know how to describe it.
No, I get you.
Are you gonna be okay with one of these guys that we draft?
I have to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I am. Like, if given the choice, I'd want one of the top 4 guys. Because I think that those are future building blocks for organizations moving forward. You feel the most confident in those guys. With this guard class, while talented and everything, there's still a lot of questions. And I mean, there's questions with all these guys. These are NBA prospects, right?
Right.
These are investments for organizations. You don't know what the future holds, but you feel like they have something that, would benefit your organization. So you take a chance on them and you draft them.
Right.
In this case, like, obviously I'd want the top 4, but because we don't have the top 4, I recognize the need at point guard and at guard in general for the Kings, which is wild because we haven't said that in years.
Yeah.
But it is a legit need now. And I'm looking at this guard class, and it is extremely talented. Like, we're going to talk about what we learned about some of these kids, not just from the season that we just watched, but about these kids at the draft combine and some of the measurables and everything, and like the interviews. Like, these guys have an it factor to them.
Yeah.
That I think is a building block in a lot of ways. It's just a matter of finding the right one. So while of course I'd want the top 4, I like this draft, the spot for the Kings, but I like this draft class if it's a point guard the Kings are taking.
Yeah, I think although 7th is a shitty spot to be in for the Kings, it's still not, it could have been worse, and getting one of these guys at 7 is not, like, it's a good consolation, I guess.
Exactly.
Is a good way to put it. So let's break down these 4 guys, and we're gonna go guy by guy, talk about, like what we said, with their combine measurements, some of the things that stuck out to us, kind of some comparisons. I was doing a lot of digging. You and I have been working on, our kind of drafts, trying to narrow down some guys who we really enjoy from this draft and who we think the Kings will end up taking. But when we talk about these guards, I think we got to start with the biggest name, the one who will most likely, weirdly enough, if the Clippers are picking at 5, they may not pick him, even though he's probably the best one in this class. And that's going to be Darius Acuff Jr., the point guard out of Arkansas. We made some player profiles and got, some interesting stats, facts, all the things about these guys, and some comparisons, what we like about these guys. And we're kind of just going to talk these through 1 through 4, pick our favorites, and then just kind of have a discussion about them. So when we start with Darius, obviously when we look at the combine measurements, everyone knew he was on the shorter side. That was never a big deal.
Yep.
The 6'7" wingspan is good for him. He had a 36-inch vert. He can get up, but that he is, his athleticism isn't like the other guys. But when we talk about Darius Acuff, it's production. It's clearly he was one of the best offensive players in this entire class.
Yes.
In all of college basketball last year, he was the focal point. I mean, when you look at his numbers that you're seeing here, guys, he shot 44% from 3. And he had the ball every possession. And I think, the cool thing about all of these guys is what we get with them is going to be their pace. We will be able to play the game at their pace because they are capable of controlling the flow of the game. And Darius, played in a kind of a pro-ready-ish system with, John Calipari. And Calipari had interviews praising him and saying this is one of the best guards I've ever coached. And John Calipari, for those who don't, who might not remember, he was the guy who produced all these Kentucky guards that, made Kentucky what it was. So John Calipari knows point guards. This is his thing. So I buy into the stock of Darius Acuff. You look at the accolades he has here, there's just so many things that you would like. Is more accolades than any other player that we're going to be talking about here. I mean, AP All First Team, SEC Everything of the Year. He won the Bob Cousy Award, which is for the best point guard in the nation. And then he was the only player in NCAA history to average 20 plus points a game, 5 assists a game, off of 40% 3-point shooting, with a 3 assist to turnover ratio, and in a season. So he topped that off with a 49-point performance in Alabama, and he set the Arkansas single season records for points and assists.
Well, and on top of that, he was SEC leader in both scoring and assists. Mm-hmm. And he was the first freshman since Pete Maravich to lead the SEC in both those categories.
So it's just crazy to think with Darius Acuff, there's going to be, you just know, you kind of feel like you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
He's a star. offensively. Its defense remains to be seen. But when we talk about, before we get into the comparisons of it all, what we really liked from him, I think it's important to kind of talk about some nuggets here, some little connections. Now, when we talk about Darius Acuff, it's Darius Acuff Jr. Darius Acuff Sr. was coached by none other than Sacramento Kings GM Scott Perry back in the day in the I think it was 1998, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. I forget the name of the school, but their school went 3-23. So it wasn't like a great team, which also doesn't make me feel better about the Scott Perry experience over here. But it is interesting. So Darius Acuff, there's a relationship within the organization. And I think as small as it may be, that, I feel like those little things in this kind of season matter a little bit because there's a familiarity there. So I thought that was an interesting little nugget about that. I don't know if you knew that coming into it.
I'd heard about it, yeah. Look, man, I'm going to be honest. Like, if there's a way to trade up, and I do believe, like, you have to trade up. Because I think if he gets past 5, I think Brooklyn takes him at 6. Yeah. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But
I could see that.
But I'll be real. Like, if you're gonna take a point guard, this is my number one guy. Like this would be the guy who I would feel the most comfortable building around. He really just, like, I was watching his film. What was that, 2 days ago? Mm-hmm. And I just saw like a young Damian Lillard.
Yes.
Like that was all that I saw. And it was, I had one of those moments where I recalled the fact that the Kings passed on Damian Lillard. And I was like, God, it would hurt so much to pass on another Damian Lillard if we have the opportunity. Yeah. And I feel like in this case, like, passing on him would mean not taking a shot and trying to trade up. And so in my opinion, like, this is, like, if I was the GM, the Kings, mm-hmm. if I was Scott Perry, I would do everything I can to go get the Clippers pick. I really would. I'd throw the kitchen sink at the Clippers to go get Darius, because it's like, this is the kind of guy you want to build around. The way that he's been talked about with his teammates, the way he's been talked about with his coaches, both in college and prior, like, he is a hell of a player, and he's got a motor like no other too. So, I mean, just with the kind of things that he does, the strengths that he have are extremely elite. Mm-hmm. As far as those concerns, like, especially the defensive limitations, I mean, not an elite, athlete per se. He doesn't have like the best vert, but just everything he does offensively is something that you can totally build around, and I want to.
Oh, I think if you get him in the same room as Doug Christie, I think Doug Christie will be able to teach him a lot. Yeah. And part of me, like, when I watched the film, it almost looked like the way he was defending was intentional. Like, it almost was like John Calipari was like, don't really focus on guarding your guy. We got super athletic dudes in the back end who will block shots for you. They had, I forget the name of their forward, but he had like a 3 block average. He was averaging like 3 blocks a game. So they had a guy capable of they were almost funneling the offense to that guy. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that Acuff is just like incapable of defending. I think that he has, especially with that nice little wingspan. People focus on that a little bit when it comes to the guards. I think he has the ability to improve, or to at least showcase that he can defend in a system that's built to help him. Yeah. Now, that's where the argument comes in for the Sacramento Kings, who, outside of Dylan Cardwell and Keegan Murray, maybe DeAndre Hunter, don't really have the kind of horses on the back end to really help him. But he is such an offensive fulcrum. And, like, when we talk about, one thing I really liked about him, when we were doing like archetypes and stuff, I just consider him an offensive hub. Like, he is a dude who can score from anywhere. He can make the right play. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he steps up in the big games. Like, you guys are seeing it here on the prospect profile. Like, when he in the NCAA tournament, he went from 23 points a game in the regular season to 29 points a game. And I mean, he really was the one carrying the load for that team. Yep. And you saw, I mean, obviously he ran into a buzzsaw in Arizona at the time. Like, there was only so much he could do there, and he still played really well. I just think, like, Darius Acuff is he's a big game guy. Yep. He doesn't back down from the moment. He's a leader, and that's what a lot, you were just saying that, like, he's a leader of men that guys can get behind. Everyone's aware of how good he is. And I think, when you see Dame Lillard, and I saw like an old school like Darren Williams to him with his ability to get to like his one cross move and just pull up right away. He can attack from all three levels. He's he is probably the best scoring guard that's come out of college in a really long time.
Well, and if you're talking about like an immediate floor, I think he's got the highest floor. There's an argument to be made that he has like the highest floor offensively than anybody in the lottery.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's super refined offensively. It's just, you think modern day NBA, and this is kind of what I want to toss over to you.
Okay.
Because if you think modern day NBA, you don't see a lot of teams outside of like New York building around a smaller guard. It's tougher to build around small guards in today. It just is. Like, you want the length, you want the athleticism. When you lack those things, it makes it tough. Does that kind of a thing bother you when you think about the potential of building around a guy like Darius Acuff Jr.?
No, because we kind of got a taste of that with Fox. And I think that, we were able to be a consistent, playoff caliber team with a guy like Fox. And we had a good mix of guys. We still could have been more athletic. And I think that's just one of those things that I imagine Darius Acuff here, and he's already, I would say who he is now is like better than even like a Fox at like year 3 and 4. Like, offensively, like he's going to instantly come in and be your day one. He could be your leading scorer. I think next year, if he was on the Kings next year, and the veterans, I'm not sure what that situation is going to look like, but even if you're putting him next to Levine, even if you're putting him next to Domas, like, he's a guy who can put up like 18 and 6 in his first year. And I think that'd be a really good spot for him, because even with the vets, he wouldn't be asked to do everything, but the team's going to give him the green light to do everything. And again, he plays with pace, and he's not afraid of anything. And he also gets his teammates involved. He's the best lob passer in this class. Like, you see, because of the athletic guys he had playing alongside him, he was just throwing the ball up there. He has such a good feel. And I think a trait that all of these guys have is their ability to, whether they're powering through or what, they're going to force. They're going to go downhill. They'll spray and pray. They'll spray and shoot shots that Mike Brown always liked to preach about. All of them have a really good ability to collapse in the lane and pull the defense into them. True. And they all have the ability to get the ball out. I think that's the fun thing about when we talk about these guys. They're all kind of similar, but they all do it slightly different. But Darius, I agree with you. Highest floor, potentially highest ceiling of the bunch too. You like what he has, and you can build around these small guards. Like, Jalen Brunson is the example. You got Steph. I think that comparing him to them is a very big ask. But Jalen Brunson coming out of college wasn't that kind of player. It took him a little bit to get there.
It took him like 6 years.
Yeah, and I think Darius Acuff would get that green light right away. I think he'd have the opportunity to do that. He would be fun. I think he would be the most fun player for sure.
Yeah, and imagine him learning behind Russell Westbrook. I know you're not huge on the idea potentially, but I have always wanted to bring back Russ. I would love to bring back Russ, and I welcome it now more than ever if we're drafting a point guard. Yeah. So I can just imagine him behind a guy like Russell Westbrook, learning what he was able to do in the NBA for all these years. Oh, yeah. That'd be insane. I
do think if Darius were to get drafted to the Kings, I do think that would incentivize Russ to come back, because Darius is the kind of player other players get excited about. Sure. And like other players, like, I would want to play with this guy. I think I would be, for a player like him, I would be more okay with Russ being the guy. It was the fact that they were doing Russ and Dennis at the same time that was pissing me off. So if it's Russ, Darius, and Devin as your three guys, and if we move on from Malik, or even have Malik, that's your rotation, of true guys who can run the offense for you. So I love Darius Acuff here.
All right, so draft night happens. Kings don't make a trade. They stay at 7. Acuff Jr. gets drafted by the Clippers or Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Who's our next guy?
So the next guy to keep in mind, I would say, is Kingston Flemings. And I was big on Kingston kind of early in this draft process. I remember at one time saying that I would take him over Acuff. And it was because, and this was before Acuff continued to just prove me wrong every night. So yeah. I think when we talk about Kingston, he's more of that two-way guy. When we look at his combine stuff, what scared people away was his itty bitty wingspan. Apparently, it kind of caught everyone off guard because he is a defensive player. He's the best two-way player of the group here. I think that's what separates him from the rest. And when we talk about the NBA Combine, he was the best point guard athlete of the bunch. He was top 5 in every single athletic test. He had the highest vertical.
He's got a 40.5-inch vert.
And this was the same argument in terms of like, and this is an interesting comparison because I know how Kings fans feel about him, but this was the intrigue in Devin Carter as well. Devin had a 40-inch vert coming into the combine. I was like, this dude's athletic. He does it on both ends of the floor. I've heard some interesting conversations when it comes to a guy like Kingston Flemings, and you look at his numbers and he's kind of just an all-around dude. You see this 38.7 3-point percentage. It's a good clip. It's a good number, but he wasn't shooting it that much. He was out of all these guys, he shot it at the lowest percentage. So when we talk about like, Kingston, the biggest question is going to be, can he bring that 3-point shot in right away? How consistent is that going to be? But when we look at the rest of this game, I'm telling you, bro, from the moment I saw him, it just reminded me of a right-handed Foxy. His ability to, what he does well is he's the fastest dude in this draft. He's the quick twitch. He's a little bit smaller, but he's still not afraid to bang with the big boys. He can get to any spot he wants in the mid-range. It's hard to, for you Kings fans, if you watch his film, it's hard not to see Foxy because Foxy would just break down the defense, get to his spot and pull up. And that's all Kingston's game is. That's where he thrives in. Yeah. And we talk about Darius Acuff playing in a pro-ready system. Kingston Flemings played in this Kelvin Sampson offense, which is much more keep it slow within the half court. But he's also a menace in transition because of his athletic ability. And I think what intrigues me about a guy like Kingston is I can see him paired with a guy like Maxime Reynaud, we can slow the ball down and have them run a 2-man, where Maxime doesn't have to be sprinting up and down the floor with him either. Kingston is I would say out of the bunch, he's the least flashy passer. He makes creative passes. He does like cool little bounce passes when he's driving in. He gets guys up in the air and drops it off. He's good at those kind of passes. He's whipped a few passes out. He's really good at passing once he kind of gets himself in the air. Yep. He makes a decision and he does a really good job of it. But Kingston is, I've heard this thing because his numbers aren't the same as everyone else's. People are like, oh, he doesn't take over. He is exploded in games, and he had over 12 games of 20 plus points. He was a consistent scorer for this team that was also surrounded by seniors. So this was a young point guard leading your offense who you could rely on. And I like those traits that he brings, and he's an active defender. He's a little undersized, so coming into the NBA, he's going to get picked on a bit, but he's not so incapable that you can't throw him out there. And I think that what I like about Kingston is just his all-around ability to be a super reliable player. And he does the dirty work too. I mean, he had 4 rebounds a game, so it's not like he's not afraid to get up there because of his athleticism. So that's why I get so excited about Kingston. So I don't know, before we dig into, kind of more things, some of the cons about him, what do you like about him? And do you agree with me that he might be the second guy versus the other two that we're going to talk about?
I do agree with you. Yeah. And actually I was going to say he is probably who, if I had to place a bet on this, I would bet that the Kings probably take Kingston.
Like if
nothing changes and they pick at 7, and we anticipate the board to shake how we predicted to, I would anticipate them taking Kingston Fleming. And look, I mean, this wouldn't be an L by any stretch. I mean, you watch his impact, you laid everything out there. Like he has potential to be a real impact player on a game-to-game basis. But I think with him, like the biggest thing that I've seen from his film, like you watch him against smaller players and he's fantastic. Like his pull-up is awesome. His get to the rim ability is elite. His athleticism is off the charts, and he gets cooking type thing. But against taller players, like bigger centers, is where I see him struggle the most. Yeah. And that's kind of where, like, at the NBA level, when you've got these 7-foot plus guys and you see Chet Holmgren, twice a season, and you've got, DeAndre Ayton in your own division if you're in the Kings, like there's things like that that matter. And what will his impact look like? Immediately it could be ups and downs. I mean, it's probably going to be ups and downs, but it could be more downs than ups. It's just a matter of like kind of how much he develops, not only from an IQ perspective, but from a physical perspective. His IQ is the thing that actually gets me the most excited. Like, you hear him have interviews and he's super polished. Like, it seems like he's already got media training of some kind.
Yeah, he has a lot of character to him. Like, he's
ton of character, and he's super smart. Yeah. And from an IQ standpoint of running an offense and understanding where to make the best impact and everything like that, like, that's
Seems
where
like a team guy.
Yeah, that's where it like kind of gets me the most excited, honestly.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. I think with him, he's a plug and play player. Like, you can throw him into your lineup and you don't have to ask him to be the best player, but he's a player you can rely on.
Yeah.
And I think, so that's why, if we don't get Darius, that's why I think Kingston would be he's almost the safest pick of the bunch. I think I would argue him and the next guy we're going to talk about are kind of the two safer picks. But what scared people away was Kingston was really great and consistent during the regular season, but in the playoffs, in the March Madness tournament, his numbers kind of dropped a little bit. It went from 16 to 12 points. He rebounded really well and still was dishing the ball out, but his shooting just wasn't with him there.
I mean, he even started the college season pretty cold. I think he started like made 17 of like his first 60 something shots. Like, it was a cold start, but then he kind of leveled out, and then we saw him get cold again. So like, there's those waves, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about Kingston was coming into college, he was only a 3-star player. He wasn't actually supposed to be in the starting lineup going into the year. And he played his way into the lineup of a Houston team that's extremely talented, right? So I buy into the fact that he is willing to put in the work and he's able to, step up to the challenge. Now, obviously it didn't work out for him in March Madness, but that doesn't take away from like what he's able to do. But obviously the biggest concern about him is just how will he handle the physicality. You're right. When he attacks the lane, that is kind of where he's weakest in the half court. Obviously in transition. In transition, he's a beast.
Insane.
And even with that wingspan, because of his verticality, he's able to contest shots on defense. He's able to block shots. He had a cool chase down block in games too. Like, he's capable of those things. And again, he is just, you can cater to his flow. He can run the offense at his pace, and being on the team that he was on, he can operate in a slow it down type of offense. And I like the idea of he would be a fun fit around all the veterans, because I think he would be a sponge from them, because he would learn the spots to go to, and him learning alongside a guy like Russ too would be an interesting fit for sure.
He'd be a fun fit on this team in general with the vets and with the young guys. Like, the thing with him is no concern of his game right now tells me stay away from him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't look at Kingston Flemings and go, this part of him, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Everything that I am concerned about can be polished and can be worked on.
Yep.
And if it can't be fixed, you can fix it from a roster building standpoint. Now, do we trust the Kings to put a competent roster around that kind of a construction? Well, I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But like the half court concerns, you can work on that. Tackling the big guys down low, he's already crafty. He's already shifty. Once he gets a couple years under his belt, he's going to get even more crafty and even more shifty, and that becomes a whole new thing. So, I mean, look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It took him 5-6 years before he's starting to draw 27 fouls a game, right? So, like, these kind of, and again, another high IQ player is Shai is. So, taking a card and taking a chance on a guy like Kingston, I don't think would be the worst wager for the Kings to make here.
No, absolutely. And I think, it'd be a good spot for him. I mean, like, for the combinations, again, you guys pulled up, you guys saw it here on the profile. Have him as like a Tyrese Maxey, De'Aaron Fox kind of player. Like, that's the ceiling I could see. That's the shades of the guy that I see when I watch him play. Yeah. He said he was inspired by D Rose when he studied a little bit of Fox, is what he said. I think that, and he also has some experience. He really likes Cason Wallace, because when he was growing up, when he was in AAU, his dad was telling him to watch Cason Wallace and how he plays. And, Kingston says he learned a lot watching that. So I thought that was cool. So Kingston would definitely be, I think, our number 2 guy. Now, I don't know if this is going to be your number 3 guy, but this guy going third, and that we're talk about here third, has also been rumored to the Clips, has also been rumored to the Nets, that they really like him. And I think he offers more size, a little bit more versatility. And that's going to be Keaton Wagler, the point guard out of Illinois. And obviously Illinois got pretty far, got to the Final Four. And so that was their first Final Four since 2005. And he was instrumental. Mm-hmm. Another guy who wasn't highly regarded coming in, Illinois has kind of built a very solid program, surrounded by European guys because they have European coaches, kind of a pipeline.
Yeah.
So for Wagler, this was an interesting. When we look at his measurables, he's kind of twiggy. He's a lanky guy. I had said this to you earlier when I first kind of started watching him. And I really got put on to him after he had that 46-point outburst against Purdue. I was watching that game as it was happening. And it was funny. At the time, I was watching for Stojakovic's kid because I knew he was there and he was playing. I was like, oh, come on, Andre, make a play. And Wagler was just draining buckets after buckets. I was like, who's this dude? I didn't know who he was. So I saw some stuff about him. And I'm not going to use this example that I told you earlier, but I'm going to reference him. I think when we talk about Keaton Wagler, he's the Cam Boozer of the point guards. He's like the slower, people view him a little less athletic, plays at a unique pace, but was very dominant and in full control. So people are like, oh, he's not that athletic. He lacks first, like has no first step, is not blowing by dudes, yet he's cooking dudes left and right and getting to his spots. And he has this weird thing when he's driving to the lane, he'll drive towards the free throw line. Someone's going to meet him there, and then he just does a spin right off him. And that kind of he creates separation that way. And then he'll either pull up from mid-range or he'll just dot a dude. And he's also just not afraid to jack it from 3. Like, he has great range, elite range. In the game against Purdue, he was 9 of 11. Like, this dude can hit 3-point shots. So, when we talk about him, if you really want to make like comparisons, and I've been calling him like Tyrese Halliburton light, but you can also, when we talk about his style of play, you see guys like Cade Cunningham, you see guys like SGA, like Luka, who are heliocentric players who don't look as athletic as everybody else, but they are very deliberate in what they do. Every dribble has a meaning with Keaton Wagler, and he really plays be a point guard beyond his years. And I think he operates very well in the pick and roll. He's also just really good at, because he's not afraid to attack, even though he's not the fastest dude. Everyone still sinks into him, and he just hits people left and right. Yep. He's the most, I would say his passes are the most precise of the bunch. His vision is amazing. I think he just has the best feel because he plays the game slower. So the game is just, I think, a half-court team like the Sacramento Kings, that kind of idea, it would be interesting. And maybe we kind of get our shot at Tyrese Halliburton again, only with nobody in the way. So when we talk about, that's kind of some of the things I take away from Keaton Wagler. And his people were a little disappointed that his wingspan wasn't bigger because he's a lankier guy. But as a defender, he was kind of more of he could hide by using his size to interrupt passing lanes, and that's kind of what he did. But again, not a twitchy dude, not an elite athlete by any means. He'll dunk because he has the size for it, but he is more of a floater guy, more of I'm gonna try to step back and hit that shot on you kind of guy. But he is a big shot maker, and he comes from a good system. So that's kind of what the good of Keaton Wagler. I don't know how much of him you've gotten to see.
Yeah, I watched a good amount of film on him recently, really, because I didn't really start looking into him until basically the Kings got the 7th pick. And I was kind of like, okay, that's Keaton Wagler range all day long. Yeah. And when on the topic of his range, that's kind of the thing that enticed me the most. When you look at like what he's able to do in a half-court setting, it's super promising. And the where I want to go with that is a pick and roll game.
Right.
When I watch him run a pick and roll, Like, it was beautiful. It really was. Like, it's run to perfection almost every single time. And I'm just picturing a guy like him next to Maxime Renaud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like those two in a 1-2, get a couple of years under their belt, and that could be a lethal duo.
Yeah.
I mean, you made the comparison when Tyrese Halliburton was here in Sacramento. We saw him develop a 2-man game with Rashawn Holmes, right? And like, if we get a hint of any of that and get to run with that a little bit more than just, the year and a half span that he was here, like, I would be extremely enticed. So while I'll admit, like, Keaton wasn't my top guy, this is another guy I would be absolutely okay with the Kings picking at 7th. He's a jumbo movement shooter, and you look at like he's got that elite touch and that float game, like you said. His IQ's off the charts. Great pace change. So while he's not shifty and while he doesn't do anything at like a super fast pace or anything, he has enough change to the pace that he plays with that it catches players off guard.
Oh yeah.
And you see it the most when he does that 2-man game. So I would be super enticed and interested in picking Wagler here. I think that he could fit in Sacramento. And you want to talk about the height being a concern with a guy like Darius? Not here.
Yeah.
6'5", running the ball. Like, let's go.
Yeah, add switchability. You can play him with anybody. You can play him with Neek. You can play him with, Levine. You can play him with Russ. Like, Wagler's a cool guy. And I think, when we talk about him, in the NCAA tournament, his shooting numbers fell off a little bit, although he did hit some big threes. You have some, like, inconsistency in the free throw, which is, that kind of, gets in the way a little bit. But, like, his ball handling's insane. His vision's insane. He's the best table-setting point guard of the group here we're talking about. And I labeled him like a playmaking shot creator because his ability to create plays from others is not just he can control the pace. He's like, oh, let me just spend the first 5 possessions setting everybody up, getting the game going. Oh, we need a bucket, got it. And like, oh, we need another one, I'll just take over here. And like he has that understanding of what needs to be done in the moment, and he has a maturity to his game, and I really like that about him. So he would be a cool mix, definitely. And, like, it's hard between him and this last guy we're going to talk about because, like, again, very different styles that we're about to talk about. But, like, I'd be happy with any one of these guys. Yeah. So the last guy we should talk about here, Michael Brown Jr., the point guard out of Louisville. Hot and cold discourse with this guy. Yeah. Now, the first thing we should start with is injury concern. He played 21 games this year. There was about 39 games played for those who played the whole season. So he was in and out of the lineup consistently, and that did affect, when you look at his numbers that you guys see here, he looks like an inconsistent 3-point shooter. He only has 34%, 41 from the field, but he's an 84% free throw shooter. So you see when you watch him play, silky smooth shot, and he has a nice little burst to him. He's the second. Him and Darius are kind of around the same speed in terms of being able to push. But Michael has nice size to him. He's 6'3". He was expected to be like 6'5", so he was a little shorter than expected, but he's got good burst to him. He's incredibly shifty. I think that it's funny when I watch him play, I see shades of Malik, and the way he runs a pick and roll, it literally looks like Malik and Domas are like with the guy he was playing, his teammate that he was running the pick and roll with. He would get the one bounce, they set the screen, and just the one bounce quick pass right in there. He just fits it in. Michael as a passer is definitely the biggest risk taker. Turnovers were an issue for him, but I do think that was just inconsistency with the injury, right? He tries passes. Like, his vision's awesome because he tries passes that no one else would because he sees it. He has an elite vision to him, and I do think that if he stayed healthy and stayed consistent and was just running your offense, he's going to be making passes that, are going to wow you. He's the most exciting, I would say, like, he's the biggest, he could potentially be, his ceiling is the highest, like, in the sense of what he could be for the modern NBA game, because he reminds me of Malik, but he also has, like, shades of a slightly taller Trae Young, and this dude will pull up from 30, up, whatever. He's just going to jack it up. He is confident, but it's like one of the smoothest shots I've seen. And he you see some of the intensity that he plays with, and he's definitely not a guy. He's definitely a guy who's not afraid to get animated, get with it, and hype up his teammates. He looks like he's a lot of fun to play basketball with, and the way he can control the pace. I saw some of his tape, and I was like, oh God, I kind of would buy into this hype if we ended up with him. That's kind of how I felt, my early impressions of him.
I see D'Angelo Russell.
Ooh,
and I've seen D'Lo for a minute. Now here's the. God, you texted me, I don't know, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And you were like, bro, Michael Brown Jr.
Yeah.
And I was like, I told you, I texted you, I was like, don't do it. Stay away because of that back stuff.
Yeah.
And you were like, and you said some other stuff and basically along the lines of like, but, you know what I mean? Like, look at the tape. And I didn't listen to my own rule, and I looked at the tape, dude, and like, yeah, he's bucket.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun to watch. But the back injury really does, like, the history, it makes me nervous.
For sure.
And
especially at a point guard spot.
Yeah, the reason being is like, I started this conversation off by saying the Kings have to get this right.
Yes.
They're in no position to take a wager on somebody who is a big chance like this. And that's not to say that Michael Brown Jr. might not turn into like one of the better players offensively in the NBA in a few years. I don't know. He could also be the next Ben Simmons in the sense of he can't stay on the court.
That's
and
fair.
The back issues lead to other things. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I looked a little bit deeper into like the back issues. He had a growth spurt at one point recently, and some people are kind of associating the back injuries with that, which is legit. And if that's the case, like, give him a year or give him just an off season and he'll probably be fine.
Yeah, he was at the combine. He was doing drills.
Fine.
It looks like, him and Caleb Wilson, right? So it looks like, he's okay. Maybe he's not ready for like 5-on-5 yet, but
I'm so nervous for the Kings to get this pick wrong.
No,
I think of the four guys we just talked about, this is the biggest chance guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
While all of the positives, the strengths check out as a guy that's like someone you want on your team, it's just the concerns where I'm a little bit caught up on.
Yeah.
That's not to say that the Kings might feel differently. I mean, Scott Perry might feel differently. He might feel like he is the guy. I've seen him mocked to the Kings recently.
Right.
He kind of has a range of like picks 7 to 15.
I've heard him go as high as 5. People were like, it was interesting because they said if it wasn't for the back injury, he'd be the guy people would be talking about at 5.
And 5 kind of makes sense for a team like the Clippers where they've got one more year of Kawhi, right? Like, you don't know the future from there, but they're not in a position where it's like, we have to get this draft right.
Right,
you know
because
what I mean?
it was basically a miracle they got that pick back in the first place.
Exactly. So they're in the kind of situation where you can take a chance on a player like that, where it's like he's got some history, but the ceiling is potentially there. I don't think the Kings are in a position to make that kind of a chance.
No, you're not wrong. And I agree with you. That's a great point. I think, and especially since we just did that with Devin Carter, I don't think people want to live through that again because we got hyped. We were told, we didn't realize that he was hurt until after the draft. So I was hyped about it until I found out he was going to be out for 6 months. I was like, well, shit, he was my guy, but it's kind of tough when you're already starting him off behind the 8 ball. So I agree that
and Devin Carter's injury happened during the combine.
Yeah, that's true. So
yeah.
Interesting. So this is the discussion, right? These 4 guys have been right in the range. You can make an argument like we kind of talked about. There's reasons to like all of them. So yes, these might be the next tier of guys that we're talking about, but this tier's a freaking good tier. We're going to walk away with a really good point guard potentially. Now, nothing guaranteed, but I feel really good about any one of these guys. And obviously, I think you and I, we talked about them in the order. I think that we'd be okay with drafting them. And, Darius, Kingston, Keaton, Michael would probably be the order that we'd have it now. Now, what we're going to be doing here throughout this draft process, because the Kings have 3 picks for now. We have no idea what's going to happen, what trades are going to be made, whatever. But the Kings have 3 picks in this upcoming draft. And our second round picks are nice, solid picks. It's 34 and 45. Like, those are good picks. So this is a deep draft. we're going to talk about some of those guys, but we don't think it's just these four.
Mm-hmm.
The Combine has provided us with some nice insight on a few dudes who, can we make the argument that we could say it might be a reach, but we have an argument for them. So that's going to be the next discussion we have when we're going to pick some of our guys that we're like, you know what, I'd be okay if we take them at 7. But out of these four, it does feel like that is the most likely scenario. Yeah. And if that is the most likely scenario, I'm cool with it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's enough on the draft discussion. Where again, it's going to be a lot because it's the best time of year for that. So
what's wild is we only have a month to talk about this.
I know.
Like,
it sucks.
And you're about to be a new papa, so like, who knows how many of these we've got.
We're going to keep the clips flying.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be right here with me, guys.
Absolutely. But like, it's so wild, the turnaround, how quick.
It's true.
You learn your pick, and now
I kind of like it though.
Choose your guy.
I kind of like it. I think the timing of it makes sense because the lottery, like, you don't want it to be like 3 months away and then we're like, well, shit, we gotta wait.
Yeah.
Like a month is like just enough time where you're gonna hear way too many draft takes, like from people like us offering their draft takes on guys that they may not be all familiar with, and you're gonna be like, okay, it's gonna be some draft fatigue, and then the draft's here, and then you get summer league. I think that's cool. And by the way, Cali Classic back in where it should be.
Yes.
What are we talking about? So. And it looks like it's going to be a little bigger this year. It's going to be more teams, so that's going to be interesting too. So, if we hit this draft, we get to see a lot of young talent. It's going to be fun. Like, we might have to, pop on over there to Summer League. We had some time. So, stay tuned, guys. We got a lot of draft stuff. This is the best time of year. I love me some NBA draft here. So, we will be right back because we have to talk football. It's also a great day in the NFL for the NFL schedule release. So we're going to peep the Niners and the Eagles, talk about our schedules real quick before we head on into the rest of this offseason stuff. So be right back. All right, we are back to talk some NFL schedule release. It came out today, and there was, the fun part about this. One thing I love about the NFL schedule release day is there's a day for it, but all the leaks happen by the time the release is official.
Yeah.
And NFL teams aren't even allowed to release their schedule videos until 4:30 Eastern time. So again, everything was already out, and they said, "Oh, it's not official until it's official" type stuff. But it was funny. So fun day because there was a lot of news happening and a lot of rumors and stuff. Some of them did and didn't happen. So we got to talk about the team of the pod. So Ben here is going to break down. He's going to go through the Niners schedule real quick. We're going to put it up for everybody to see real quick. We're just going to list them off real quick, and then we can break down some, talking points about it. Ben's going to give his, what interests him the most, what stretches of the schedule did you find, you're like, oh, crap, I'm worried, or we might be able to capitalize here, and just talk about some things that you noticed from the schedule.
Heck yeah, let's do it. So let's kick things off in Australia. First of all, you know what? Before we even do that, can I just say the travel came out? The travel for all 32 teams came out. The 49ers are set to travel an NFL record 38,105 miles, which is 4,000 miles more than the second place Rams, who are also joining us for a dance in the land down under. The previous record last season was held by the Chargers,
right.
47 or 37 something.
Yeah.
The Chargers also held the record for the most time zones crossed at 42. So the Niners not only blew away the miles, the miles that they'll be recording and traveling, they're also traveling 58 different time zones.
49ers World Tour, baby.
World Tour, dude. Call us not just America's team. You can call us the world's team at this point.
At this point, yeah.
So I'm frustrated by that, but I regress because I think you sent me something.
They did win 11 games last year, the Chargers did.
And they did.
So the teams that had the top 5 miles last year all finished above 11 wins.
11 games, yeah.
So
11 wins. So
it's like, including the Niners, they were 5th.
It's true.
So,
it's true. So, all right, let's talk about this schedule now that I got that out of the way. It starts off week 1 in Australia against the Rams. Then we go back home, play 3 games at home straight against the Dolphins, the Cardinals, the Broncos. Then we're in Seattle, hopefully to get some revenge there because last time didn't end too hot. And then we go back home against the Commanders. I know you're looking forward to that one on Monday Night Football. So that's going to be the second prime slot for the 49ers. Then you go to Atlanta before you have your bye. So we've got a nice little week 8 bye. I like a midseason bye. I don't know that I like it after looking at this schedule, so I'll get into that in a minute.
Good.
You get 2 weeks of preparation before you go out at your home stadium against none other than Mendoza and the Raiders.
Hey.
So that's going to be interesting. We love a Raiders battle. Then you go to the Cowboys, play the Cowboys. Then you go to Mexico City against the Vikings. That's a home game, whether you want to call it that or not. It is considered a home game for the 49ers, but it's always going to be a home game. And then you go back home, play the Seattle Seahawks. Then you're at New York against the Giants. Marcos, I have something on that.
Can't wait.
Then you got your second dance with the Rams at home. Then you see the Chargers and the Chiefs, both away games. Chargers game is the Thursday night football game. Then you see the Eagles.
BTB Bowl 3.
The Eagles for the last home game in Levi's Stadium before wrapping it up at the Cardinals. So, Marcos, 5 primetime games, right? You got the Aussie game. You've got the Commanders, Mexico City, Chargers, and Eagles. I love that our game is a primetime
Sunday night football.
Slot. It's supposed to be.
We might be able to pull something off here. We might have BTB Bowl 3 in person because that'd be a lit time. Yeah. Tanner McKee versus Mac Jones at week 17. I'm just kidding. Who knows? It is a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But I think with everything that's about to happen in my life, I think having it as late as possible is good. So January 3rd is the game. So it's like
I'm just worried that the substation might cook this year. But if it doesn't cook, man, this battle is going to be something else. Yes. So stoked about those. Those are the primetime slots. Now, as far as the rest disadvantages and advantages, we don't know all of those yet. That'll be a next week thing. We'll kind of touch up on that.
Warren Sharp usually cooks those up.
He does. Yeah.
He's super reliable. We've been using him for years.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted on that. But the ones that I know as of right now, the known rest disadvantages are against the Seahawks and the Eagles. So y'all already have some advantage going into that. You need it because you can't beat a healthy Brock Purdy.
Oh, we'll see. And there's a little tidbit of our schedule going into your game, into our game. We can talk about that too, so it'll work out.
Now, the MetLife game. Let's talk about that for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I hate going and playing games on MetLife turf.
Traumatizing, huh?
It's not good injury luck in general. It's really not good injury luck there for the 49ers.
Really? Yeah.
So, Nick Bosa tore his ACL there. Jimmy Garoppolo twisted his ankle there. Like, those are just the ones off the top of my head. There were more.
That might just be a game where you just, rest your starters. Dude, it doesn't matter.
Seriously. So, that automatically I don't like in general. I knew about that already, but the fact that it's near the end of the season, you're in week 13, when you're coming up on a vital part of your schedule where you need to start stacking some wins, that's concerning. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Now, I will say, when you look at this schedule in general, I'm gonna tell you right now, the 49ers have to start this year hot. I say that a lot about teams in general. But I can't stress it enough, especially in a scenario like this. If you look at weeks 9 through 18, okay, this is post-bye. This is a gauntlet, dude. You see so many good teams, and even the Giants, they're reloading. They've got a decent club now.
They'll be frisky.
They are going to be frisky. The Vikings are going to be interesting now offensively. Jawan Jennings. Shout out Jawan Jennings. He got his contract over there.
Old friend Kyler Murray's the quarterback.
Old friend, yep. So, there are tough matchups there. And I'll talk a little bit about that stretch here in a minute. But starting this year hot is going to be the key. And specifically, winning a game in Australia is going to be a big one. I think if you can get a win to start things off, that would be the best case scenario. Why? Because number one, it's against your division rival. Number two, you have to recover from this trip in Australia. This is a 16,000-mile round trip, okay? The Rams and the 49ers travel more miles to get there in week 1 than the Panthers do all season long. I'm sorry, than the bottom 5 teams do all season long.
Yeah, Panthers at 8,000 miles, so that's a 30,000-mile difference, guys.
Yeah, so that round trip for the 49ers and the Rams is going to take a toll on these guys early on in the season to kick things off. So I think getting a win here is pretty big. The nice part is you get 3 straight home games when you come back.
Yeah.
So you see the Dolphins, the Cardinals, the Broncos. Dolphins are going to be bad, probably. The Cardinals are going to be probably bad. They got some interesting pieces to work with now, but I think that they're going to be figuring out their identity for the better part of this year. And the Broncos are going to be still a powerhouse.
Yeah.
So I think the Broncos, aside from the Rams, the Broncos are going to be the first, real test of the season when you get back home and you get into the real rhythm of the season. So when I look at the first 7 weeks prior to the bye, I need the 49ers to win somewhere between 5 and 6 games.
Yeah.
I think if you lose 3 games in there, you're not setting yourself up for a good season. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest with you, I can see a scenario where the 49ers lose 3 games. I can see a scenario where they drop the game against the Rams, they drop the game against the Seahawks, and they drop the game against the Broncos.
Right.
The other games, I feel pretty confident the 49ers can take care of business, especially with the kind of roster that they have.
Yeah.
But all things considered, you might not have George Kittle week 1. They're saying he's potentially on board, but we'll see. We'll keep tabs on that. Mm-hmm. But you got to start the season hot. And that's my biggest key. So that's a stretch that's really important to me. Now, a stretch that I'm really concerned about is not only just the post-bye stretch. I mean, that post-bye stretch, there's gauntlet teams in there. Mm-hmm. But it's really the last 4 of 5 games of the season. So from week 14 to 17 is where my biggest concerns lie. And that is the Rams, the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. So the Rams,
a tough stretch, bro.
Rams is going to be a tough game in general. They're plotted to be one of, if not the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
The Chargers are another interesting team. Now adding Mike McDaniels, old faces, old friends.
David Njoku.
Yeah. They've got a squad over there that looks pretty decent. And I think this is Herbert's last chance to really make some noise.
Yeah. I'm telling you, bro.
So then you see your bugaboo in the Chiefs. Now, this is a Chiefs team that's going to look entirely different than that of what you've seen before. But nonetheless, you go to Arrowhead and you have to get a win there. So that in and of itself is going to be tough. And then you turn around and you play an Eagles team on Sunday Night Football who's going to have a rest advantage on you.
Yeah.
So this is a tough stretch of football before going into week 18 against a shitty Cardinals team. If you don't set yourself up.
Frisky.
Did I say shitty? I meant frisky. Yeah, my bad. When I'm talking about the early stretch of the season and how we need to start hot, I'm so dead serious.
Yeah. No, I know. I agree. I do think I couldn't agree with you more. When I saw the first 3 weeks, I was like, bro, if you could take care of those first 3 weeks, because they gifted you the Dolphins and the Cardinals after Australia. But no, it is tough. The Eagles game is going to be an interesting one because not only is the rest advantage, the Eagles are going to want they're going to want their get back for getting clowned these past 2 times by all. It's just going to be there's a budding little rivalry. There's a rivalry, and hopefully, God forbid, we never know football. It's freaking football, right? So hopefully the guys are healthy. That's what we want. But who knows?
By week 17, unlikely.
Right. And that's the same thing for the Chiefs game for y'all too. True. It's that could work in your favor, where Mahomes isn't fully healthy, or since it's week 16, he could have gotten into a rhythm at that point. Maybe the new offense and everything, everyone's healthy. Maybe the Chiefs are rolling.
Good point.
So it is a gauntlet, and I couldn't agree with you more. If you guys get off to a hot start, give yourself room for error for the back half of the season that's going to be demanding. You guys will be in a good spot. The playoffs are going to be interesting this year. The NFL, the NFC, I think is going to take that bump up this year. We're going to be there's realistically 9 or 10 teams that can make the playoffs.
Dude, I think the Super Bowl champ is in the NFC this year.
Oh, for sure.
I feel pretty confident calling that now.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't trust the Ravens or the Bills either.
And those are probably the 2 best AFC teams aside from the Broncos right now.
Yeah, and we don't know what Bo's going to be looking like because he got hurt at the end too. So,
and they have a gauntlet of a schedule, don't they?
Yeah, they have a tough schedule too. Yeah. The schedule makers, man, they made it. So that was the thing I wanted to talk to you about too. We had the 8th and the 9th easiest schedules.
Yeah, in what world?
It doesn't look like that.
No.
So we'll talk about the Eagles one in a second, but yeah, it didn't. That Niners schedule, it doesn't look easy.
So
just the beginning part.
No, I like that you brought that up because I agreed. When you look at the opponents, in general that the 49ers are playing, you look at it and you're okay, there's some tough teams in there, but you've got a mix of some pretty bad teams.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's a backloaded schedule.
Yeah.
And so when you look at how this shapes out and who they're playing, from week 9 on, they play maybe one bad team in there. The rest are very frisky to good to elite teams.
Yeah.
Like, there is no room for error in that second half of the schedule. Versus if you tossed it back into a hat, all 17 of these matchups or 16 of these matchups back into a hat, and then you or 17 into the hat, and then you resprinkled it, it would probably be a lot easier because you're getting a little more diversity in your schedule. But it's tough.
Okay, so way too early prediction for
I got you.
The 49ers schedule.
I see 12 wins for the 49ers here, and I feel like that's safe. Now, if I were to put a ceiling on it, I see 13. If I put a floor on it, I see 9. Now, the floor is solely based around not if I feel like this team can work together or not. It's all to do with that substation, baby.
Yeah.
Is that substation going to cook, or is it going to take a year off? Because if it takes a year off and it lets the 49ers do their thing, I feel very confident in 12 to 13 wins. But aside from that, it's going to be tough. Now, nonetheless, this is going to be a big season for the 49ers. They have loaded up to make a Super Bowl push. I believe that they have a Super Bowl caliber roster in the NFL when you consider who's coaching them. And I think, considering all the injuries and everything that happened last year, this 49ers team was able to rattle off 12 wins.
And a win against the playoffs.
And a win in the playoffs against a damn good defense and an offense that was sputtering, but nonetheless should have figured something out.
Reigning Super Bowl champs.
Did you see, by the way, Kevin Patullo said he was responsible for creating the Eagles offense?
Yeah. I'm telling you, bro. Wild. He was the problem.
Dude is delusional. Anyway, this is going to be a tough year for the 49ers. And looking at the schedule, it doesn't add up to being the 8th easiest or whatever it is.
Right.
Like, this is going to be a test. It's the biggest key for me here to getting a good record. Not only is staying healthy, but is to start hot.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway.
I agree. So now let's pivot on over to the Eagles. And I think it's also imperative that when we pull up the Eagles schedule that they get a hot start. Now, let's run through the Eagles schedule real quick. We start off week 1 against the Commanders at home. Then we go on the road against Bob Saleh and the Titans. We got Monday Night Football matchup on the road against the Bears after that. And then, so going from Monday night to Sunday against the Rams week 4, which is not a primetime game for some reason, but the Rams game was supposed to happen. They're going to come get their ass kicked again by us. Then we go to London and play the Jaguars. Last time we played in London was 2018 after our Super Bowl season in 2017. But this is the next part that pissed me off, and we'll dive into it more in a second. But we play in week 6. So after London, we play the Carolina Panthers at home. And then we play again at home. So they count the Jaguars as technically the de facto home team. But on here it said that we were the home team. I don't know what happened there. But I think they're counting us as the home team for the London game.
Got it.
So then we have 2 straight games in Philadelphia. So Panthers, Cowboys on Monday night. And then we play again on short rest at the Commanders on Sunday Night Football. So we play Monday night and we get 2 straight primetime games in a week. So which is pretty crazy. And then we're at home against the Giants. So we play 3 straight divisional opponents right there. And then bye week 10. Then after the bye week, at home versus the Steelers. Shout out Alex, can't wait for that matchup. And then week 12 at Cowboys, that's Thanksgiving. So the Eagles play on Thanksgiving in a very loaded Thanksgiving slate. We can talk about that in a second. Then there was a little bit of confusion here. Week 13, we're going to the Cardinals after the Cowboys. And then week 14, we're at home against the Colts. And there was confusion because those 2 games were switched originally. People thought we were going to be at the Cowboys, home against the Colts, and then at the Cardinals, but it's reversed. So at Cowboys, at Cardinals, first the Colts. And then week 15 versus the Seahawks on a Saturday game, standalone game. So we get the Super Bowl champs. We're not going to Seattle. That's huge. That's a huge difference. We don't win in Seattle, so it'll be an interesting matchup, them coming to us. Then we play on Christmas Eve, Thursday Night Football. So we play so this is the weird stretch. Sunday, Saturday, Thursday. So then we Thursday night, Christmas Eve against the Texans. That's just going to be a 6-3 game. And then we get our matchup at the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. And then we finish the year at the Giants, where we don't have to play any starters and our bench can take on the MetLife turf. So when we look at Eagles schedule, the first thing that pissed me off was we don't get the bye week after London. And this was interesting because the players, so the Eagles released video. It was Saquon, Jalen, Jordan Mailata, Jordan Davis, and Jahad Campbell. And they were all taking turns. They were all hanging out and reading them and talking about the games. And one thing that caught their attention at the end of it, there was like, wait, our bye week's week 10. Why are we not getting that bye week? I thought we were going to get it after London. So they thought that they were like, isn't that normally what happens? And they're like, oh, that's going to be grimy. That's going to be tough. Like, that's going to suck. And I think that's really important for us when we talk about the first 4 games. We really have to go like 3-1 here. Like, we got the Commanders and Titans. We have to beat. We have to win right away because we could drop both the Bears and the Rams game, and that's what scares me a little bit. Because we can beat the Jags. So like, let's say worst case scenario we're 3-2, and then we play the Panthers, and then we get 3 straight divisional games where we're getting a rest disadvantage in one of them. So all of this coming off of a London game. So I'm interested. Weeks 5 through 9 are going to be very difficult for the Eagles, and I think that's a stretch where if we don't start off hot early, we could find ourselves in a hole heading into the backstretch, which is still very doable. The Seahawks, Texans, Niners, trio of game makes it tough because that's a 3-game and 15-day stretch. So that's also rest disadvantage. So yes, we have a rest advantage against you guys, and that might actually bear out because it's the Thursday through Sunday, so that helps a little. But we've already come off of 2 tough games against the Super Bowl champs and a fucking defense that'll kill everybody in Texans. So it's a lot to ask, I think. So I don't know the full extent of the rest disadvantages. I just know that we are playing 4 teams off the bye week. Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's the part. So 4 teams off the bye week. Just like sparked in here. After the London game, the Panthers game, week 6, the Panthers are getting a bye week in week 5. So not only do we come from London and play week 6, we're playing a team who's on a bye. That's crazy to me. And then we play the Commanders are coming off that Sunday night game at week 8 at the Commanders. So we already played Monday night. The Commanders get a bye that week. And then it's the one versus the Colts. That was another one. And I forget what the 4th one was. But yeah, so it was interesting. Some of these are I'm like, dang, we're going to be playing rested teams. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what the rest advantage is. Because I see some spots where it's like, okay, we kind of have one here. But then we're getting our asses kicked in a few of these ones. So I'm a little, but we also had 5 primetime games. The Eagles and the Niners both have a lot of 125 slots. So we're getting primetime spots here. So it's just like they want to see more of the Eagles. That was kind of my main takeaway was like some of the rest disadvantage stuff and the bye week stuff that pissed me off the most.
I think, like looking at your guys' schedule, I'm going to be really interested to see next week when Warren Sharp cooks up the rest advantages and disadvantages. Like, that's the thing that's going to tell me the most, not just about like our schedules, but in general. Because, I mean, you guys have, it's wild to me that our 2 schedules were considered easy. Yeah. And then you go down the list of these and you're like, where is it easy? Or does it get easy here? Because it just seems like, you got, a couple easy games, and then you go a hard game, and then, oh, look, a rest disadvantage. Oh, look, like we didn't get a bye here. And the fact you guys don't get a bye after that London game is really stupid. I think that's dumb. Like,
talk about player health, man.
Seriously, like they want to invest in growing this sport internationally, which I'm all for. I think that's a great idea and all. You got to still look out for the teams who are going out there and putting their teams and everything as a part of your push for growing the sport. You have to look out for them when they come back. And part of that, especially in a mid-season, is giving them a bye right after that to recover from that time difference and just that travel in general. You guys are probably going to be there a week.
Yeah, we're probably,
you get adjusted, you play a game, you come back, you're going to have to readjust before you take on the next team. And it's just, that's rough. I hate that for you.
What I wondered, would you be opposed to, not that we need more football, but would you be opposed to, if they want to really do this international thing, put on our, business hat here, what if they added an 18th game for the regular season, but in doing so that guarantees if they want every team to play at least one game overseas, right, to expand their thing, play overseas, every team gets one game overseas, and you're playing 18 games, but there's 2 bye weeks. One directly after whenever your international game is, and then one regular one during the season, and they're spread out. So then 18 weeks, we get the extra week, guaranteed international, but at least there's guaranteed 2 bye weeks. I don't know how you'd feel about that.
I'd feel great about it if you can guarantee no team gets their second buys after like, I don't know, week 17 or something. You get me?
Yeah.
So that they don't have like a 2-week rest going into the playoffs, you know, especially if they're not like the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
I think the number 1 seed should deserve that week off.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
But like, if you're a 6 seed and it just worked out like that you know, that you have your international game and then you get the bye going into the playoffs, that would be kind of crappy.
Yeah, I think that they would have to do it where they do international from like weeks 1 through like 11.
Yes.
But they can throw, because there's enough teams they can throw all the matchups in. Multiple games that week in different areas. It would still work, I think. But,
I think, if you shorten the window or you change the window from like week 3 to week like 14.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah, so it'd be just something to think about, because like that's going to be the more international games that are being, because the Goodell's trying to expand, right?
Yeah.
Which is annoying as shit. But either way, like great for those who actually care. But I don't think all these other countries really give a shit about football like the NFL. But it's interesting to see with all these international games being added, what is that going to do to these teams and how they prepare in the season? Because the Eagles said it after their week 1 game in Brazil in 24. Like, it was a season of its own, and I can only imagine what Australia is going to be like for the Rams and the Niners. Like, it's going to be an adjustment, and so
the only grace is that they granted us a little bit more recovery time.
Right. Exactly. And that's worrisome, because we're talking about the health of the players, and you're trying to do this to them and then go play a team who's completely rested right after in the Panthers. That it is an interesting little nugget. But when we talk about, so that's what bugs me the most. I think the part I'm the most concerned about is just that the Bears Jaguar stretch, 2 weeks 3 through 5, because if we can't win 2 out of those 3, it's going to make it really hard coming back from London. And that's what scares me. And then the Seahawks, Texans, Niners is just a tough way to finish the season, even if, because it's hard, because like this schedule, I can see why it's like the way it's kind of spaced out with some of these teams is interesting. But the fact that they give us a stretch where we get 3 straight divisional games, and then we get the bye, and then it's kind of a lighter Steelers, Cowboys, Cardinals, Colts. Like, that's a doable stretch.
Yeah.
And then you get the other gauntlet. I don't know. It's an interesting one for sure. I was getting mixed reactions. They were like, on social media, I'm seeing like, oh, this is a light schedule. It looks easy. I'm like, well, when we take an account like some of the rest disadvantage stuff, I think it's going to be harder than it seems. Although, when we talk about a way too early thing, I think my prediction, I have that the floor of the Philadelphia Eagles since 2022 has been 11 games. I will not go lower than 11 games. I think I want to be optimistic. I'm going to say 12-5 as well. And I think we're capable of doing that. I just don't know how we're going to manage the rest. But Sirianni's really good at those kind of things. There's only so much he can do, because it's their bodies and it's the physicalness of the physicality of football. But I am confident. I liked our team going into it, AJ or not. AJ, you're going to have to help, New England's not get their ass beat again by Seattle in week 1. So best of luck to you. But it'll be interesting to see how the Eagles start. I'm confident weeks 1 and 2. Like, I'm ready to spank the Commies and the Titans, bro. Like, that's going to get me going. And to see the new offense, to see this Sean Mannion-led team, Kevin Patullo's idiotic ass is out of here and ruining Miami and Malik Willis. Like, y'all, it's going to be where the hope is better. And now we got Mekhi. Like, you're feeling good about, the life post AJ. It's going to be different, but I don't think hopefully Sean Mannion brings some excitement. It looks like Jalen's getting behind him and is ready to embrace this. And I mean, with the primetime spots they're giving the Eagles, they're flashing the spotlight on Jalen and Sirianni. They're already, we got the hits, the hit reports. We got another random AFC executive that's like, oh, Howie Roseman's always ready to be proactive, and with Jalen's declining speed, blah, like he'll trade him after this year if the offense doesn't go well. Like that's there.
I actually saw that AFC person said that they could consider trading him this offseason.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What?
And like I'm hearing podcasts that are like, oh, they have Jalen, like in the future of like 2028 or 2029, Arizona Cardinals quarterback Jalen Hurts. I was like, stop. like it would like it's the yearly discourse with Jalen.
Yeah.
So the spot. So they they love putting that on the Eagles, like the spotlight, the drama. Will Jalen step up? And he will do it every time. So I'm confident that Jalen will adjust to this new offense. I'm just excited to see it. I hope, the guys are healthy. I'm excited to see the new guys. I believe in this team. So I'm excited for what's to come. I still have to see it from Mannion because none of us have seen it before. So, but until that happens, I still have faith. So I like the roster. The defense is as good as ever. I don't, outside of the safety position, which has some, you could technically improve, but Marcus Epps has been to both Super Bowl or to one of your Super Bowls, and Andrew Makuba was really good until he got hurt last year. So I'm hoping that, when you consider that, everything else on that defense is freaking stacked. Mm-hmm. And so the defense, potentially one last year of Vic Fangio, you're going to get everything he has. I think the defense is going to carry this year, and they're going to do their part still and again to help the offense learn as they go. So I'm confident in the Eagles. I'm going to start with 12-5. We'll see what the rest disadvantage. If
what's the ceiling?
I would say 13-4. This is a tough schedule. When you look at the teams, we're playing the NFC West and the AFC South this year. And the AFC South was awesome last year. So it's just this is a tough, and that's why when I saw our teams up there, I was kind of surprised because I was like, we're playing each other. Both of these divisions, the NFC East is going to improve. NFC East was ass last year. The Eagles were able to take advantage of the Cowboys sucking and trading Micah and first year of Brian Schottenheimer. Jaden Daniels was hurt, and the Giants sucked. They were also hurt. So,
if it weren't for the Cardinals, the NFC West would have been the best division in football by a mile.
And the Cardinals are the worst team of the 8 that we're talking about. Yeah. If we're out of our division, so 100%. They're gonna but the Giants realistically they look like the worst team in the division, and they have a ceiling, a floor of potentially 9 games. So it's not I don't know where the whole. I know it was based off of future predictions, but even then that still didn't make sense to me. So our teams have interesting schedules, guys. So we'll see how it all plays out. But this is NFL schedule release day, and it's always an interesting day to kind of get your hopes up, freak out a bit, overreact. But I really enjoyed what this day brought. So I think, unless you had any final thoughts here, bro, I think we're chilling on this spot, huh?
Yeah, we're chilling.
This is good. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys, getting back up to speed on what happened. There's big news, when we talk about the draft lottery and the draft picks and the schedule release. Now it's going to be pretty calm on the football side of things. They got OTAs happening. We'll catch up on news. We still have a lot of, personal players to talk about, like Brandon Ayuk, what's going to happen with him. AJ Brown, once, in 2 weeks, he'll probably be gone. What do the Eagles get back? So there's going to be things to talk about prior to the start of the season. So stay with us, guys. So with that being said, this is episode 128 of the Behind the Back podcast. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13 at gmail.com. And for all you guys watching on YouTube, since we switched things up a little bit, we got all of our stuff right down here now. Look at that. So, you got all of our descriptions right there. You guys can go follow us on social media. And then for all you audio listeners out there, the links to the descriptions are down below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, and follow the show. We appreciate all your love and support as we continue, like we said, to grow and try to bring the best show possible to you guys. We appreciate all your love and support. With that being said, I'm Marcos Conan Negron. Beside me here, as always, is
Ben the Jet.
All right, y'all. We love y'all. We will talk to you next week, hopefully. Peace.